So in today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little different. Rather than just focusing on a deep dive into the abstraction of Bitcoin, I'm going to be getting my hands dirty with this practical action of demonstrating a Bitcoin multi-signature security setup. And this is a service provided by Casa. So today we're going to set up a multi-signature key shield using multiple hardware wallets in a way that will help demystify one of the more technical sides of Bitcoin security. And again, this is somewhat mysterious, right? You've probably never heard of multi-signature custody, but it is the most important aspect of holding your Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, in my view, is the modern implementation of the ancient principle of inviolable property. However, you cannot just buy Bitcoin on an exchange and leave it there and expect that property to be inviolable. It must be custodied properly. This is a big asterisk on my claim that Bitcoin is inviolable property. You must do it in a geographically distributed multi-signature custody schema. That is how you make your property right in Bitcoin extremely difficult, if not impossible, to break. So that's one big reason why multi-sig matters, is that it really empowers an owner to have full control and discretion over their Bitcoin holdings. When you leave your Bitcoin on an exchange, you don't actually have Bitcoin, right? If you've logged into a Coinbase account, for instance, and purchased Bitcoin, you've sent Coinbase the exchange dollars, you've used those dollars to purchase Bitcoin, and on your Coinbase interface, it's going to tell you you have X number of Bitcoin after you've made that transaction. However, that number on the Coinbase interface is not Bitcoin. That is an IOU from Coinbase to you. You have not taken possession of that asset. So if enough people do this, if enough people trust, and I'm picking on Coinbase right now, but this really applies to any centralized custodian. If enough people choose to trust centralized custodians with their assets, that gives exchanges the ability to basically run fractional reserves, right? And this is the whole problem we're escaping with Bitcoin from central banking, is that central banks ran fractional reserves on gold. That's what led to fiat currency, this global fraud that we talk so much about on the show. Similarly, if you have all of your Bitcoin centrally custodied, then you can have basically these exchanges running fractional reserves on top of Bitcoin as well. So you end up with a violation of the supply cap of Bitcoin. So instead of 21 million Bitcoin, there might be 50 or 100 million paper, air quotes, paper Bitcoin in circulation, meaning that there's a lot more claims to Bitcoin or represented ownership stakes of Bitcoin than there are actual Bitcoin. And if enough people demand to withdraw their Bitcoin from exchanges, fractional reserve Bitcoin exchanges become impossible, right? You can't, the fraud is exposed effectively. So you might be asking yourself, how is self-custody safer with the inclusion of a counterparty? This seems almost antithetical to the ethos of Bitcoin. And you also might be asking yourself, isn't that exactly what Bitcoin is designed to avoid? Well, as you'll see during the process of this implementation, Casa in no way has any control over your Bitcoin whatsoever. They are merely a service provider that helps facilitate the multi-signature custody setup in a less complex way. There's a way to do this with open source software tools, and you can do it, customized yourself. But in that world, most people just aren't technically sophisticated enough, myself included, to do that. So what I prefer to do is have a service provider abstract away the complexity and just present to me a solution that allows me to manage my keys in a very self-sovereign way. Again, that I have sovereignty plus redundancy, but low complexity. And that's exactly what Casa does. So when you do self-custody for your own and or your family's Bitcoin in a safe way that is not susceptible to any single point of attack, but it's also done in such a way that you have an inheritance plan in the event of anything unexpected happening. You will become part of the standard operations of all sovereign individuals across the globe. This is the path to individual sovereignism, frankly, right? To have full control over yourself and your assets, totally immune to the opinion of anyone else. And so today we're going to go from start to finish to demystify the process of implementing multi-signature custody. This will not be a complete technical deep dive, but it will be an accessible first step into multi-sig setup. So first, what is multi-sig? Think about those movies where a nuke needs to be launched and two guys have to turn the key simultaneously to unlock the launch button. Multi-sig is that process. It guarantees that no single key, if found, can do a thing without at least one more key being activated simultaneously. So most Bitcoin wallets only require one key to send Bitcoin. Casa uses multiple keys, which makes your money extra safe and secure. Each key is held on a different device. So this can be a mix of your phone. This could be a mix of offline hardware wallets, could be a mix of paper wallets. In terms of hardware wallets, Casa supports wallets from Trezor, Ledger, and Cold Card. So you can mix and match those as well. And the other key point here is it would be pretty pointless to do a multi-signature setup with all of those keys maintained in one location, right? If you set up a 3-shard multi-signature setup and you kept all those keys in one safe, that would be pretty pointless. So getting geographic distribution or multi-location setup is important as well, in a way that each key is stored in a different location, which makes it nearly impossible for a thief or a natural disaster to cause you to lose more than one key at a time.